Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 368. We are recording, broadcasting live on Sunday, May 16th, 2021. I am David Lott. Joining me, as always, is Bobby Jackson.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everybody.
And Michelle Hillard.
Hello, everyone. Hey.
It seems like we have now
The
been
gang's
on
all here.
a regular, every 2 week schedule lately, and I apologize for that. But
last weekend was Mother's Day, and I think everybody kind of had stuff they got to do that they wanted to do. I'm not saying they were made to do things. I'm just simply saying that people were doing things.
Right. But welcome back, guys. Good to hear your voices. Let's get right to it. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I imagine. No, I was just gonna say, no video this week, but normally, for anyone listening, we will have video back up on YouTube and Twitter and all that good stuff next week.
True, but we are still streaming live. But yeah, audio only this week. If you're tuned in and you're like, wait, I'm just looking at this picture of Chris Rock. What's happening? That's on purpose. Yeah. It might change a little bit. I might throw out some posters for some things that we
keep it interesting.
We talk about as we move along, but otherwise, there's Chris Rock. Hi, Chris.
Got to keep it fresh.
Yeah. Speaking of Chris Rock, hey Bobby, how's it going, man?
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
And he's just throwing it right at you now.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we're just diving right in, huh?
We're diving right in.
So,
well, before I ask you about the reason Chris Rock is on our thumbnail this week, we can actually really get back to talking about box office for the most part.
What?
I know.
The what office?
There's actually a box office these days. It's kind of weird. And the reason Chris Rock is looking at all of us is because he was in a film called Spiral, which was #1 at the box office this weekend. In its opening weekend, made $8.725 million.
Nice.
And Bobby, you saw this one.
I did.
You saw it in a theater?
I saw it in the theater.
That's the only way you can see it, right?
It's indeed. It's not playing on any streaming service. So, yeah, you have to take your butt to the theaters if you really want to see this latest Saw movie. But, it's interesting because I have a real deep love for the Saw franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises. I know it's a little bit on the gruesome and gory side. But what I've always really enjoyed about the Saw movies are the inventive ways they put people in these traps and contraptions for them to try and get their way out of. And this movie is no different in that way. This movie was created and conceived by Chris Rock, who is an executive producer on it, as well as being the main lead in it. And you also have Samuel L. Jackson in it as well. And this particular story there's that Jigsaw that you know of. His calling card is that spiral symbol that you see in the background of Chris Rock, and that seems to have returned. Now, it's no spoiler to say, for anyone who's been tracking the series, to know that the original character isn't in these series anymore, but there have been copycats, and so that's essentially what we're dealing with here, is someone picking up that mantle again, but with the purpose. And in this particular case, the purpose is targeting corrupt cops. And Chris Rock plays a cop who isn't in quite much favor with his other officers based on something that happened in a case prior. And in this particular setting, he's surrounded by a lot of cops that aren't particularly of the good kind. And so when they start turning up dead, I guess, he's on the case to try and investigate it. And it obviously has the same trappings and actual literal traps that the other Saw movies have. And what I'll say is that I liked a lot of what they were trying to do in terms of the the way that they were framing it in terms of, okay, they're targeting bad cops, and what does this mean, and especially in today's world where that has been on people's mind lately in terms of the way cops have been treating people, and who judges them in that sense, and it has that element to it, but I think it doesn't go too far beyond that. It just sort of kind of presents the idea of it, and the the I'd say the main kind of thing that I got from it was that I liked some of the setup for stuff. I liked the idea of it, but the full execution kind of falls flat. Uh, and unfortunately, a lot of that I think is due to Chris Rock, where I've seen him in a lot of different things, and for me, for the most part, I think he does well enough in the things that he's in. Um, Even in some of the more dramatic things that I've seen him in, he seems to do well enough. In this, I couldn't quite divorce myself from the idea that it felt like Chris Rock more so than Chris Rock being a character. It just felt too much like Chris Rock, and it was just like some of it felt like he was working out some material for the stage based on like some of the jokes and the stuff that he was saying in it, and it was just, I don't know, I it pulled me out of it a lot of times, with it being him, and I almost felt like it would have been better served if he just stayed as an executive producer and had someone else as the main character. But between that and just some of the dialogue and some of the other stuff, it just wasn't, I don't know. It didn't feel uh, quite like a Saw movie that I was uh, anticipating and thinking that it could be. It just, yeah, yeah. It just wasn't as good as I was hoping. Unfortunately.
Aw,
That's a bummer.
it is a bummer. I
Yeah.
honestly, I was surprised that. I don't know why, but I was just surprised that Chris Rock was interested in the Saw franchise as a whole. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wouldn't have been my first guess either, but his involvement, especially the way you're describing his involvement, you know what, it's got Samuel L. Jackson in it. It definitely piques my interest more than most Saw films. And I'm with
Agreed,
you,
agreed.
Bobby. I did like most of the Saw franchise. Actually, I think it hit a
Me too.
point where it went way too far.
Yeah.
But yeah, this seemed like, oh, this could be a nice revitalization of the franchise. But that's too bad that it's not that good, at least in your opinion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I am curious to see where they go from here in terms
Yeah.
of. I think I saw the idea that they would maybe hope this could be the revitalization, but from a creative standpoint, it doesn't seem like it might be the case. But I'm curious in terms of from a financial standpoint if it will be, because I don't know. Usually these movies don't cost a lot to make, and if it made 9 million this weekend, um, maybe 2-3 more weeks, it could be in a point where it made enough money for them to say financially it's doing well, and we can still continue on with this series if we'd like to. So
Right.
I'll be curious to see and keep my eye on the box office just to see how it continues from this week and forward.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to the box office, at number 2 this week was Wrath of Man. That's the new Jason Statham film from director Guy Ritchie.
Okay.
It's in
Yeah, I
its
wanna see that.
second week in release. So this weekend it made 3.7 million, but it's made 14 million total, or about 14 and a half.
Yeah. So I guess I'll interject here. I
Yeah,
did see
please.
Wrath of Man. I saw
Oh,
that
nice.
last week. And everyone, if you're going to go back to the movies, this would be a movie to go see in the theater. It was so good in terms of, I don't know, man. It's like Guy Ritchie, for some of his last few movies, I really enjoyed them more in a way that it's different than his initial beginning uh, filmography. I mean, I feel like he's in a second career sort of level of his full body of work in terms of, anyone who's seen all of his original movies, they were very bombastic and loud and brash and in your face. And the movies that he puts out now, they have that to them to a certain degree, but feel more like reined in a little bit, as opposed to being as wild as they were. And I'm thinking of the one last year with Matthew McConaughey, um, the something gentleman, right? It that's what it was, the gentleman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what this kind of feels like. It feels more like it's still Guy Ritchie, but it's not like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. It's not wild in a way. It still feels like it's him doing his thing, and this movie is no different. It feels like it's not so crazy, but it's still so good in terms of the action that you're getting, and the story. The story was really good, and it's with Jason Statham, and I felt like, man, Jason did. He does his thing like he normally does, but it just felt like this was even a little bit sort of different for him in terms of what I'm used to seeing him playing. And just the sort of setup and premise of it is that he's working for this security company that takes out trucks and picks up loads of cash from different businesses, but these I guess have been getting hit. These trucks have been getting hit by a crew of robbers, and once they run across Jason Statham, who's in the security team, there seems to be a little bit more there that you discover as the story goes along, and understanding who he is. And it's just involved in terms of the action and in terms of the story and going in different places that I wasn't expecting. But man, I really enjoyed it a lot. I mean, like I said, between this and The Gentleman and Aladdin, and even that the one that was like Arthur, the King Arthur one that he did, I liked as well.
Yeah,
so
I like that film
for
too.
me, like his
That was a great
for me,
movie.
his last few films have been really good, and this is no exception. I really enjoyed this a lot.
Nice. That's good to hear. Yeah, it's funny too, because I guess maybe in certain respects, I haven't really been tuned into the radar in some of these movies. Like I hadn't heard any like buzz or anything about this, and so I wasn't sure if it was well received or not. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So going back to the box office, though, so that was number 2, and number 3 this weekend was the new big release on HBO Max and in theaters. That is Those Who Wish Me Dead, with Angelina Jolie. And Yasha, you saw this one, didn't you?
I did see this one. I actually just watched it today, so I'm coming off of it fresh in my mind. And I got to tell you, I mean, I wasn't expecting a bad movie because I think Angie's Angie, like I know her, Angelina is at a part of her career.
Yasha's got it like that. He's good. He's in there.
I'm just speaking very familiar, in regards to like, oh, Angie, she's at a part of her career where she can really pick and choose good movies to really that she wants to do, and I don't think that this is any different. I watched this movie, and admittedly, it is a little slow to start, but I think that's just because I'm a little spoiled or a little bit conditioned for everything to happen very quickly right away, and I'm kind of glad that it started a little slow, but at the same time, still having some character driven and direction going with her character and the people that are bad in the movie, the bad guys, which are Aidan Gillen and Nicholas Hoult in this movie. And I'm telling you, they don't disappoint. Nicholas Hoult played an amazing bad guy, with I felt like what had a little bit of depth too. But basically, what this story is about is a young boy who watches his father get killed and basically runs across her, and it turns into a cat and mouse type of scenario. And then there's a forest fire because she's a firefighter, because of why not? Why wouldn't she be in the city or excuse me, in Montana wilderness? And a lot of beautiful scenery, a lot of talking and explaining of like how fast fire can really move, and they address that a little bit. The cat and mouse game is really, really intense. John Barenthal is also in this movie as well, who's fantastic in it. Tyler Perry makes a brief cameo. I really enjoyed it. Like, it had some very shocking movie moments where you're just like, oh, you know, it really kind of snapped you back into it when it was starting to get maybe a little bit slow. But for the most part, I thought this movie was very well done. It was a lot of fun to watch. I could see myself watching it again maybe in a couple of weeks, you know, maybe just as background noise or anything like that. But I did enjoy this movie, and I wasn't disappointed with it. Like, the whole cast was very, very talented. I liked a lot of it because it didn't end the way that I thought it was going to end, which is always a plus in my book. But yeah, I definitely would recommend this one. This is a good one.
Nice. Also good to hear. Have you had any?
I had a chance to watch it.
Anybody? Oh, you watched it too?
Yeah, I had a chance to watch it as well. And if anyone who's been listening to us on the podcast for a while knows how much I love Taylor Sheridan. I mean, his pedigree for me has been just spectacular and impeccable, honestly. I mean, he wrote Sicario, he wrote Hell or High Water, he wrote and directed Wind River, and Wind River was one of my favorites the year it came out. Actually, all three of those, I think, were in my top 10s the year they came out. So I was really looking forward to this. And the only thing of his work, honestly, I think I haven't seen really yet still is Yellowstone, which I've heard great things about. I still need to get on that. But this was another one of his that he actually didn't write this story. He's adapted it, but he did direct this one. And there is, I will say, some elements of it I feel like didn't work for me because of some plot convenience and some maybe dialogue issues. But overall, I did still like the movie and come away feeling like it was still a solid movie to be able to watch. It's, for me, in his lineup of movies, it falls toward the bottom. But that's not to say that the movie in and of itself is bad by any means. I think it's still a good, solid movie to watch. But it's just in terms of his other ensemble of movies, this one doesn't hold as much weight and level of, I think, some of the acting and some of the other ones and some of the material of the other ones just lends them to being a little bit more dense and meatier. Whereas this one almost kind of feels more, it's like something like a throwback to a 90s movie that you might see back in that time period. And that's what it kind of feels like to a certain degree, the way it's done. But again, I still felt like it was a solid movie, just not one of his great movies.
Gotcha. Well, that's Those Who Wish Me Dead, available on HBO Max, and it's also in theaters. And it was number 3 at the box office this weekend. I mean, since we're talking about box office, I'll go ahead and round out the top 5. But number 4 was Demon Slayer as that Mugen Train. Which is,
That's what's her name? Mila Jovovich, right?
No, that's an anime.
No,
it's an anime.
Monster Hunter, I think.
I am.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Bobby, about it?
Demon Slayer. Yeah, I was going to say Demon Slayer, because it'd been picking up so much heat. And I had initially heard about it because it was over in overseas. I don't know if it's China or Japan, but one of the places, it's really well liked and renowned. And so it just came to the States, and it had been doing good. I think the first week it came out, it was giving good competition to whatever movie came out the same week as it. May have been Wrath of Man, I can't remember. But it made me curious to see what all the fuss was about. So the show is available on Netflix. I checked out the first episode on Netflix just to sort of get a sense of it, and I'll say I was into it for the first episode, and it makes me want to continue on with the series, be able to watch. I think from what I understand, you just watch. I don't know that there's more than one season. I think it might be a little bit more than that, but I've heard that after you watch the first season, you can watch the movie, and and basically it's kind of like uh, a take on the zombie tale, but done in a old feud hand kind of way, I guess. With him having this situation that takes place early in the first episode of being attacked by these demons, and it's his first introduction into this world that there are these demons, and it goes, I imagine, into a lot of different places from there. But I don't know. I just liked the animation. I liked the story that they were setting up and being able to tell. It made me very curious to see where it would go after that. So I can understand, at least from the little bit of tasting I had of it, why it's probably as popular as it is.
But from your understanding, it's like a one season, and then does this movie like take place like after that season? I assume.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was interested in it too. I mean, when I first heard that there was a lot of buzz about it, I think I kind of went on YouTube and found a trailer for it and watched that. But that's all I've seen so far. So interesting, cool. So that's number 4 at the box office this week, and then number 5 was, I think, another animated film, Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh yeah, that one.
Which I still haven't seen. It's been in theaters for 11 weeks.
Yeah, I haven't watched that either.
Yeah. But yeah, no reason, I think, to go past the top 5 at the box office. But yeah, there's a box office these days. It's crazy. Yasha, there was another movie you mentioned that you saw. That's now on Netflix, The Woman in the Window, right?
Oh, I heard about this movie.
I did. I watched The Woman in the Window, which was starring a lot of serious talent. I mean, Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, Julianne Moore, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Wyatt Russell, Brian Tyree Henry, Anthony Mackie. Like, I mean, it was just a smorgasbord for the most part of the headliners that were in this movie. And at the same time, it was really just centered and focused around Amy. Basically, I'll read the little IMDb description of it. An agoraphobic woman living alone in New York begins spying on her new neighbors, only to witness a disturbing act of violence. Now, watching the trailer and going through that description, you'll immediately start to think, I was like, oh, this sounds very reminiscent of Rear Window, an Alfred Hitchcock film that was made back in the 50s. And yes, it is a lot like that, but it is very different at the same time. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie because it kept me guessing as well, all the way to the very end. I was pleasantly surprised by all the directions that it would take. And the tributes that this director made, Joe Wright. I mean, it's just like, if you watch this and if you're even close to a Hitchcock fan, like, you can see and feel all of Alfred Hitchcock. It's like almost an homage to him, down to everything. I don't want to give it away by going into spoilers or anything like that, but it is definitely feels very, very Alfred Hitchcocky. Like almost like down to the very end of the movie. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun movie. The direction that they went with, the acting was all just spectacular, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, it kept me guessing throughout all the way to the very end, even when I was like, oh, okay, so this is where they're going to go with it. And I was wrong. I was like, oh, shit, okay, that's cool. But it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Sounds like you want to.
That's good to hear,
Michelle.
No, I do want to see it. It's based on a book that came out a little while ago. Hopefully that author didn't just, downright plagiarize Hitchcock, but no, apparently it was a good book, and no, it looked really interesting. I like that kind of I don't know. I guess you could call it a thriller. I guess I don't know. I like that kind of like tense drama, not sure what's happening, kind of mystery thing. I like that. So, no, I've been wanting.
Yeah, you'll definitely get that with this, and even some of the some of the cutaway scenes and the editing that they did with the special effects. It all reminded me of Hitchcock. Like it all reminded me of how he would have directed something like this. It just seemed very almost old school, but then with a new school flair to it, and it really worked. And Amy Adams just acted her ass off in this movie. Like she is not, this cute, bubbly person that she, typically gets in the roles or, sees and just, a very, starstruck or anything to that nature. You look at her and she looks like she has been through trauma and through hell. And she just owns the hell out of it. She crushes it. She's just really, really good in the movie. And Gary Oldman is Gary Oldman. He's amazing in just about everything that he does. So he shows up and he's just fantastic. And so is Julianne Moore and everybody that this is the sublime talent in this movie. Really, really fun.
Nice. Sound like you were going to say something about it, Bobby, or?
No, I was just saying that's good to hear. I don't think I've seen a lot of reviews for it. I think maybe I saw a couple and they seemed a little disappointed, but it's good to hear that Yasha liked it. So it makes me a little bit more wanting to check it out now.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Because it kept me guessing, but I can see some of the things, some of the problems with it. Just like with Those Who Wish Me Dead, I can definitely see what you're talking about when it comes to some of the issues and whatnot in the film as well. But I don't want to talk too much about them until we get through spoilers and, David and Michelle actually get a chance to watch it.
Right.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I didn't see any movies this week. Though I did watch at least the first 2 episodes of, and this is over on Apple TV Plus, of The Mosquito Coast. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about this version of it. It's based on the same book that the Harrison Ford film is based on.
I have a fun fact about this.
Well, first I'll say, so I've never read the book, and it's been a crazy long time since I've seen that movie. Probably 1987 or something. I don't know. It's been forever.
Like when it first came out.
Yeah, like I have a memory that my parents wanted to see this and took me with them to see that film, and I remember I think I just was like not enjoying it whatsoever, and probably just forgot about it. So I don't remember even the storyline at all, like nothing. And I had heard good buzz about this. Well, actually, from my parents. My dad had mentioned that he started watching it. So I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. I'll check it out. But I went into it kind of cold. I really didn't watch a trailer for it or anything. So this has been one of those kind of fun, doesn't happen very often experiences where I get to kind of go into something where I really don't know what's happening whatsoever. And I was almost scared to look at the Wikipedia page. I was kind of glancing at it earlier because I'm like, I don't want like more details than what I already know. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. There's only 4 episodes out at this point. It's going to be a 7-episode season. New episodes drop on Fridays. I mean, it's got a one-line premise here I could read. An idealistic inventor disgusted with the corruption of the civilized world uproots his family to Latin America and a dangerous quest through Mexico to flee the U.S. government and find safety. But I will say so far, I'm really digging it. The first 2 episodes were directed by Rupert Wyatt. The show stars Justin Theroux and Melissa George. And I mean, there's not much to say beyond that. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but I'm really liking it so far. So that's The Mosquito Coast over on Apple TV.
What's it about?
Other than the premise I just read, it's.
I mean, as far as no, I guess you probably couldn't get too much more into it.
I can't say much more than that. Well, because for one thing, You quickly start to find out that obviously he's in trouble for something, but you don't know what. At least not in the first 2 episodes. You don't know why that he's fleeing the government, and yeah, beyond that, and kind of just really that line of that premise, it's hard to kind of go any deeper than that.
Yeah, I get that.
So fun
It's always
fact.
hard now. It feels like these days to talk about stuff without giving too much away. I feel like it's getting harder for me for some
Right?
reason. Yeah, it's like there's so much that you don't want to sound like it's a spoiler or anything. So it's like, I got to get creative and trying to convince people this is worth watching without really giving any good, amount of way to convince them that it's worth watching. So it's
Right.
interesting.
And that's why, like, even going into like looking at the IMDb page and stuff, like, I don't know if it's more common knowledge like why he's in trouble, but I don't know yet. So I'm like, I don't want to know. Like, I went into
Yeah.
the show cold, and it's kind of fun doing that. I don't really want to know yet. I'll find out when the show tells me. But what were you gonna say, Michelle? Some fun fact about Mosquito Coast?
It's just randomness. The lead actor, Justin Theroux,
Right.
I don't think it was his dad, but his grandfather wrote the book.
I was wondering if it was this family member. I mean, it's the same last name.
Same.
Okay. I meant to look that up, and I kind of forgot to, because I was like, is this like a distant relative?
Nope. Samesies.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think it was his grandfather,
Okay.
which is kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, that is cool.
It is kind of cool.
that was kind of cool. Like, you're doing a show based on a book that your grandfather wrote. That's cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So I'm looking at this poster, and I don't know if my mind is playing tricks on me or something, but if you look at his forehead, it looks like there's writing on it. Like I see a D and a S towards where it splits at are you seeing that, or am I just imagining?
I don't know. It's like I can't zoom in on it right now, so I'm not sure. Maybe?
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I maybe I thought it was something with the character, and I don't know. But yeah,
I mean, he definitely
it
doesn't
could be
have like
anything,
writing
but-
on his head in the show or anything.
Okay. I don't know what I'm seeing then, but okay. All right.
All right. But yeah, that's the Mosquito Coast on Apple TV Plus. Like I said, I think the 4th episode dropped Friday, so I still have the 3rd and 4th episode to watch. And then I think they drop every Friday, just 7-episode season.
Gotcha.
Another show that I'm now I'm 1 episode behind, and that's The Bad Batch over on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah. I've caught that here and there.
Yes, sadly, I did not get to watch the episode this weekend yet. Like,
And you slacker.
I was doing yard work, and then I got caught up in a video game that's Bobby's fault. Bobby's the one that told me to download it, and
Which video game?
I got. He didn't tell me to download it. No, was it Horizon? Over on PS5, which is like been a free download. I don't know if it still is. Like, I'm completely caught up in that game now. Like, I kind of can't stop playing it. Well, you're looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about.
The girl that
Yeah.
won. Oh, that's that game?
Yeah,
That's a pretty sweet game.
I like it. Anyway, so The Bad Batch on Disney Plus. I'm sure you've been watching this, Bobby, right?
I have, yeah. I mean, for me, I'm still not completely caught up on the Clone Wars, which is to my detriment. I really have
definitely
been
not.
liking it from when I'm watching it, and it's unfortunate because I would really like to see, see it through to completion, especially since I watched Rebels, and so I feel like I'm partially thrown into the animated versions of what Star Wars has to offer, and I'm into it. And this itself also plays into those aspects because this takes place, well, a little bit after Episode 3 and a little after the Order 66 comes in, dealing with these clones that aren't like different and maybe slightly eccentric in some of their behaviors, and they didn't get affected by the Order 66, and so they're kind of trying to navigate a world where now these clones are under the Empire as opposed to the Senate and how they were of the old Republic or of the Republic at the time. So it's Sorry, I think I hijacked what you might have been getting ready to say in terms of your
Oh no,
thoughts on
you're
it. But
totally fine. Like, nope, you're
okay,
good. Please
so
go.
so yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. It still feels like it gives off that Clone Wars vibe, but I don't know, it maybe up a notch a little bit. Not terribly far from it, but it definitely feels like it's more evolved in terms of some of the the scope of story, the level of storytelling in a way that makes it more adult, but not quite. I mean, I don't want to say it's inaccessible to kids, but it just doesn't necessarily feel as kid friendly as maybe Clone Wars did. And even then, Clone Wars wasn't always necessarily a kid friendly show to me either. So this feels like it just pushes it up a little bit more than that. Obviously, there is this character, if you're looking at the poster, called Omega, which is the little girl. She could be sort of a surrogate as a way for younger kids to be involved in it. But what they're dealing with here, as far as a story, it doesn't feel like it's something that kids might necessarily gravitate towards. So I would be kind of curious how younger kids might be into it, if at all. Um, what I think I enjoy about it is that they're kind of this ragtag group of soldiers, and they all have their own little special expertise in something, and seeing them interact together and sort of this all for one for all aspect that the way it starts off is endearing to the characters because typically you're seeing the clones act in sort of a uniform way, and these guys have flair and personality that are to each their own. And something happens within that first episode that changes some of the dynamic of everything, and it gets you curious as to where it's going to go. And in this latest episode, I would say it brings up issues and things that I felt like I was had to remind myself that maybe this is still supposed to be for kids, but it was really good, and in terms of just what they were doing with it. And I don't know in terms of if I had to sort of rank them or whatever, but I really enjoyed this latest episode quite a bit in terms of what was going on with it. And uh, man, I don't know that people who say that there shouldn't be politics in Star Wars are understanding that Star Wars seems to be all about the politics, and especially when you're watching the Clone Wars or even this show. I mean, there's people that deal specifically with the political system and in the way that things were. So I enjoy that aspect of it, and for one, it feels like it's a series where I'm okay with if there isn't any Jedi or lightsabers or anything that pops up in it, because obviously it's during this time period, there wouldn't necessarily be that. But in general, that what they're doing with it, I'm on board with it. That I'm not finding myself missing and wishing that there was someone who had the Force or was a Jedi of some type in it. So that's a testament to, I think, what they're doing, because I, for one, have gone on record saying that I would like to see more Jedi focused stuff in Star Wars universe, since we've had such a lack of it in recent years. But this series is, I think, doing some good things where I don't feel like I'm missing it, and really involved in what they're doing, and really looking forward to seeing where they go. It's as a season, it's got 16 episodes, and we're only on episode 3. So we're in for a decent ride, and looking and anxious to see all the different places they decide to take it.
I didn't realize. I was curious how many episodes it was going to be, so I didn't realize this. That's the first I've heard that it's 16 episodes. To think this is going to go on for 16 weeks, or well, 15 weeks really, because the first two episodes kind of dropped in the same week. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice. It's something that happens often anymore with stuff that streams. Usually we get like 10 episode runs of things. So no, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say beyond what you just said. I am enjoying the show so far. I mean, like you brought up Clone Wars. Yeah, I've watched some Clone Wars, and I've been attempting to make my way all the way through the vast library of episodes of Clone Wars. And then Rebels too, I still want to watch. But I'm way behind on all of that. But I still just decided to go ahead and jump in on this. I didn't feel like, I need to have watched any of that to watch this. And no, that doesn't seem to be the case. I haven't had any issues, at least with the first 2 episodes. Again, I haven't watched the 3rd episode that just dropped. But I like it so far. You mentioned like the characters, and they all kind of have their quirks and personality, and I could already, even in the 2nd episode, I was already enjoying the way they interact with each other, and just enjoyed like hanging out with these characters. So that's a good sign. I'm liking it. I was going to ask you, Bobby, what's your, like, I get that these are clones, but they're not like, they're clones that have like a different, like mutation or something. But I guess I would have thought that they would still generally kind of look like a clone. But to me, I mean, I'm even looking at the poster now, they don't look like the rest of the clones in any way. But
well, so I will say in the last season that came out, I guess it was last year, of Clone Wars, these characters were introduced in I think a 4-part arc of the first part of that season. And so you get to know a little bit about them then. There's no real explanation in terms of why they all look so different, other than the fact that if you watch any of the other episodes of Clone Wars, you'll see some clones look slightly different than others, whether it's a hairstyle or maybe some are a little bit more fuller in the face, some are a little bit skinnier, but they're all still supposed to be based off of Jango Fett. So they still have that essence to them, though I guess within these particular clones, I mean, they're called Bad Batch for the reason that they didn't come out like the other clones, and they were kind of sort of essentially rejects. And so maybe that sort of explains a little bit of it. Other than Echo, he kind of comes to the group later on, and you see that in the Clone Wars series from that and how he joins the group. But as far as the others, they're literally ones that were quote unquote defective. And so there's a reason why maybe within that is why they might look a little bit different than some of the others.
Gotcha. No, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I don't even know who the artist was. I had seen like some artist had done these renders of the Bad Batch characters, but they definitely had more of a look of that actor. Is it Tamora Morrison? I don't know if that's how you say his first name. Yeah. And it was like these characters, but they had more his look. And it looked really pretty sweet. I wish I had a sample I could throw up, but I don't. But anyway, yeah, I was curious about that. Yeah, The Bad Batch on Disney Plus. I'm enjoying it.
It's funny. I saw the first week it came out, there was like people were talking about the show, and I don't know why it never occurred to me, but someone put up a comparison of the Bad Batch and how, if you think about how they are, who they would remind you of, and it totally tracks for the most part, that they are kind of like a regular Star Wars version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because you have one that's sort of like Leonardo, one that's sort of like Raphael, another one sort of like Michelangelo, and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's
gotta keep those kind of character archetypes all in line there. Make sure they represent everybody.
Right.
Yeah. But no, it's a solid show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more of it.
Yep, same here. Michelle, we haven't heard much from you. Have you watched anything?
I sadly haven't watched a lot. I mean, a few weeks ago, well, really just 3 weeks ago, season 4 of Handmaid's Tale dropped. And they did what they always do. They dropped the first, 3 episodes. And I have watched the first 4 of 5 episodes. And, yeah, Handmaid's Tale season 4 comes out pretty quick and hard in the emo stuff. Especially the first 2 episodes were very intense. And it's funny because I feel like it's one of those shows that I enjoy watching, but it's not a show that leaves you feeling happy at the end of an episode or really very hopeful. It's not it's a negative show, but it's a depressing thought process sometimes if you get too into it. But at the same time, damn, it is just done so well. And the writing, the acting, it's just damn good. It's really all there is to it. And yeah, I'm sad that I haven't been able to watch this week's drop, but I'm looking forward to catching up. I'll probably wind up just waiting until this coming week's drop, and I'm gonna watch 2 episodes back to back and kind of have a little binge session. But no, they throw no punches here. It's in your face, and stuff is really about to get real. At least after episode 4, realizing where our main character is kind of at. She's on the run, and I'm not giving away spoilers here. You could tell that in the trailers, and it's even in a lot of the promo stuff. But she is on the run, and she's just trying her damnedest to get to safety at this point because she's lit most of the world that is on fire. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. But Elizabeth Moss, man, she's killing it. She's directed a few episodes in this season, which is cool. What was it, episode 3 she directed that I just watched? Yeah, she did episode 3. It was really good.
You guys still never saw Invisible Man, huh?
Sadly, no.
Sadly, no. Yeah, I really need to watch it. Because I really like Elizabeth. I love her acting.
No, it's funny too, really watching. I mean, I already wanted to see it, and then earlier, months ago now, watching David Ehrlich's annual video that he always puts out, his top 25 films of the year. And even though that film it wasn't one of his top 25, but he'll still do a montage at the beginning
of all the films
of just all these movies throughout the year. And there were a few clips from that movie in it. And even just the clips he chose made it even look better. And I'm like, man, I really need to see that. Anyway.
Anyways, he puts together some good music and clips, and he makes everything enticing. But yeah, no, that's a movie I'd like to see. But no, Handmaid's Tale season 4 is out. Sure. We're up to our necks deep in it, man. But no, unfortunately, that's really kind of all I've watched. Really, I just haven't had any free time, and when I've had free time, I've basically just eaten food and gone to sleep.
Understandable.
But one day I'll be able to catch up on all the things again, and live a normal life and watch 1 to 3 movies a week again. That'd be nice. I'll get there again. It'll happen.
Gotta get your A-list back on.
Yeah, there's some movies coming out this month.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I should turn my AMC A-list on just for Quiet Place 2. I'm not gonna lie, guys. My excitement for Quiet Place 2, I really need to quell this excitement level because I think I'm gonna set myself up for depression. Dude, right? This movie. Oh,
I'm so excited to see that.
I've been waiting for this movie. I've been waiting for this movie since I walked out of the movie theater from seeing the first one. I remember my feeling that night. We went out for sushi that night afterwards, and we both were just like, "Damn, that was good." God, we just rolled it.
I don't remember that.
We reveled in it for 2 hours about how good that damn film was.
No, I'm with you.
I cannot wait to watch the second movie. Yeah. I really can't. It makes me giddy thinking about this movie. It's going to be so good.
It's funny. I listened to most of her interview with Howard Stern. Was that this past week?
Yeah.
I guess it's funny too. I thought I had heard almost all of it, and then I start to see all these headlines about her comment about not really liking comic book movies and kind of shooting down the whole Fantastic Four thing. And I'm like, wait, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
I had to go back. I guess it must have been later in the interview. I had to go back and like listen to that segment. But anyway,
I don't think she was really trying to be negative on it, but people took it personally.
It's just I find it interesting that you say that, David, because I kept seeing that headline and saw the articles and read the different stuff about everything that they were saying in what she spoke about.
Yeah.
Not once in anything that I read ever attributed it to a Howard Stern interview. I until you said it, I didn't know that that's where it came from.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I saw anything
Stern.
that said that it was from Stern.
Yeah, he straight up asked her about the Fantastic Four casting rumors with her and her husband, and yeah, she just immediately replies with, "Oh, that's fan casting." That's the word I'm trying to think of. It's fan casting, and then part of me too. I think I saw a headline. I hadn't read a whole like a news article, and I was like, did she really straight up just say she doesn't like comic book movies? That's why I had to go hear it myself. It wasn't. I forget how she worded it. I think she said they're not really my thing or something.
Yeah,
which is not to say like she definitely doesn't make it sound like I would not be in a comic book movie. Not at all.
Though I think they took her wording out of context. It was very like, I know that there's a big it's a big following for these things and people really enjoy them. It's not really my cup of tea, basically. Yeah. But if you enjoy that, that's awesome for you. She's like, but I have a hard time envisioning myself in the role of one of these comic book characters.
Well, earlier in the interview,
she says that until a paycheck comes around. You know, like I mean, it's
right.
I mean, that's my thing. Is like if she's done. I didn't mean to cut you off there, David, but it's like she's done heavy sci-fi movies before, including The Quiet Place, or not including The Quiet Place, I should say, and in my opinion, if Angelina Jolie can come out and do a comic book movie, I'm pretty sure that anybody's on the table when Marvel really wants to reach out and really make it appealing to them. It's all fun and games of saying, oh, I'm not interested, until they're like, hey, we'll give you 2% of the back end, and that equals out to be like $300 million. All of a sudden, it's your thing.
Well, I was going to say too, earlier in the interview, they did talk about how she was originally offered Black Widow, and she discusses that whole situation and how that played out, how it was I guess a casting conflict because the studio had an option on her, and hence she ended up having to do Gulliver's Travels. I can use words, which she didn't want to do.
I forgot she was in that.
She straight up even like, yeah. I mean, it was interesting to hear her talk about that too. Like, just she did not want to do that movie, but she had no choice. She had to do it.
Well, I don't think anybody wants her to do movies. So
she talks. Oh God. But no, she talks about like how she really wanted to work with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, but it couldn't happen. Anyway,
I mean, for me, I didn't take any offense to it. I mean, it's not for everyone, and it's fine if it's not for her. I hadn't locked in on her being cast or John, for that matter, being cast as Sue and Reed. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't, I think I'll survive. I wasn't so married to the idea that if it didn't happen, I'd be devastated. And it's for that reason, because you just don't know. And because fans are saying it, just doesn't mean that it'll be willed into existence just because it's something they want. Yeah, because they might have different schedules. They might just not be able to do it for any number of reasons. So I didn't want to ever get fully locked into the idea and get those hopes dashed. So, we'll see what happens. But I'm just excited that we'll get to see a MCU proper Fantastic Four movie, regardless of who's in it.
Yeah. And I mean, in all honesty, you guys know how I feel about Emily, Miss Blunt, as you would. But in all honesty, I think she would make a really good Sue Richards. I think she would do really well. I love the idea of her and Krasinski both doing it. Like, I think that that would be so much fun to watch, and I think they would absolutely crush it. Like I really genuinely do. But at the same time, I know that's just all fan speculation and fan art that's circling around out there, and it is what it is. It's just like, okay, that's fine. I'm not super like Bobby. It's like if it happens, great. If it doesn't, I'm genuinely looking forward to and expecting a spectacular Fantastic Four when it finally does come about.
Yep.
Yep. Well, any last things before we wrap things up? Anybody got anything else before we go?
I do, but I just want to make sure that you didn't have anything, David, or Yasha didn't
No,
have
I
anything else
do not.
you wanted to talk about.
No. Go ahead.
Yasha, did you have any other things that you want to
No,
talk
no,
about
man,
that you saw?
go for it.
Do it.
No, no.
All right. I'll run through them quick because I don't want to extend it too long. But I got a chance to watch The Mitchells versus the Machines on Netflix, done by Phil and Lord Miller, who last did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I'll say it's a good family movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's sort of similar in the animation style of Into the Spider-Verse, but not really. It does some interesting things with animation. It has a really good story and that sort of Pixar heart that I wasn't expecting, because I actually felt myself getting the watery eyes at a couple different scenes. So I think it was really effective in that. Some things are pretty over the top, but I guess that's kind of to be expected. But overall, it was really enjoyable and caught me by surprise. I didn't think I'd be into it as much as I was. So that's one you can check out on Netflix. What else? I got a chance to watch Without Remorse with Michael B. Jordan. That's on Amazon Prime, the Tom Clancy movie. And I will say that maybe I didn't like it as much as Yasha did, but I still think it's worth watching. I think that Michael B. Jordan is doing a good job in the role, and I would absolutely like to see more from the character. I just think that there was a couple good set pieces, but some of the dialogue and story was a little bit clunky, but nothing that really took me super out of it or made me not think that it was worth continuing on with the series. So it for me felt like it was solid start if they want to do more, but we'll see, I guess, how Amazon feels about it. A new series that started on Netflix called Jupiter's Legacy came out last week, and I think we briefly talked about, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, because I think we briefly talked about it on the last podcast where we were saying it was from Mark Miller, and your guys' interest level wasn't really there. And I've watched, let's see, maybe the first, for sure, first two, maybe 2.5 episodes. And I think I like it. It's okay. But honestly, I feel like it suffers a little bit from late to the party syndrome, because there's some other shows I feel like that have doing a little bit of what this show is doing, but has done it better. And so it kind of feels like had this come out maybe a year ago, it would have been received a little bit more for me in a way that I think I would have been more pumped up by it. It's not terrible or bad. It's just, yeah, they're not doing anything new at this point so far. I do like some aspects of it, because there's the main character that you see of Josh Duhamel that is kind of like a Superman stand-in. He really has this old school belief, and he doesn't believe you should kill villains and stuff like that. But his ideals are from a time from being in the 1930s or 20s or something like that, whereas now it's today in 2021, and the villains have evolved. And can you still stick by that when there's a new generation of heroes that have grown up around the violence and different things, and are their tactics more, I guess, effective than that old school way of thinking? So the ideas are there. I just don't know at this point yet if they're teased out well enough, because they do flashbacks of showing how that main character and the other characters that were originally superheroes, how they got their powers, but they're teasing it out so much that it's like I wish they just kind of would have just devoted a flashback in the first episode of showing how they got their powers, but they're really teasing it out. And it kind of bugs me a little bit that they're doing it that way. But I'm only 2.5 episodes in, so I think it's like 8 episodes. So we'll see. I'll probably report back once I finish the whole thing on it. Another series I started but haven't gotten very far just yet on Amazon Prime, called The Underground Railroad, which is from Barry Jenkins. And if you've seen Barry Jenkins' work, he's very good at what he does. This is the subject matter of being back in the time of slavery, and what you see, I can't quite tell you what's going on because I don't fully understand it myself, but these two characters escape from a situation in which they were being really treated badly, and obviously this being a slavery period piece, there's the usual things that are going on that you would expect, but something happens towards the tail end of the first episode that made me wonder, like, exactly what we're dealing with here. I don't know just yet, but it seems different in that it's obviously not trying to tell a straightforward, normal type of series of a story. It almost feels like it has a fantasy element to it, but I'm not quite sure yet. So I'll report back once I've seen more of that.
I was gonna say, based on the trailer, I think I got the sense, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's going for a historically accurate telling. Like,
yeah,
so.
That's kind of what I'm getting at as well, based on the way that first episode ends. Right. So I think you're right about that. I don't think they're going for a historically accurate story. They're just going for something set within that world and then goes from different places from there. But, I will continue on with it. I think it's maybe 8 episodes, so I'll let you guys know. A movie I watched on Netflix called Stowaway, which has Anna Kendrick in it, Daniel Day Kim, and Toni Collette. And the basic premise is that it's a 3-person crew that's going to Mars to do different types of testing and trying to figure out if there's a way to have life on Mars, kind of thing. But their mission is kind of capsided and taken into a different direction because they find someone else that's on the ship that shouldn't be there. And obviously, when you deal with that kind of type of thing in a mission, they calculate how many people should be there, how much air you have, and how much food you have. And when someone unexpectedly shows up, how do you deal with that? And that's kind of where the story is. And I found myself pretty glued to it in terms of how the mechanics of it all works. It's not an action movie. It's not very, it doesn't have that same level of high stakes in the same sense of something like Gravity, but it deals with the science of it in the same kind of way, sort of like that. And I think that the storytelling is done really well in a way that it felt very compelling to just sit here and hear these characters try and figure out how to make the situation work. And yeah, I really liked it a lot. So that's on Netflix and obviously available if you can have the time to watch it. I would suggest that one. That to me was a good one. Something else I watched on HBO Max was Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. And this is an animated movie that really shows from the perspective of Scorpion and kind of takes some of the elements of what you saw if you had a chance to see the Mortal Kombat film, take that and explore it a little bit more from Scorpion's point of view, but also some of the tournament as well. And honestly, I felt like after watching this, I mean, to me, this, I would literally say watch this and not watch the live action movie, because this
Wow.
to me gives you everything you really would have wanted to see in a Mortal
Damn.
Kombat film. I think it does it really well. There's a lot of gore and fatalities and blood and stuff like that. It gives you everything, honestly, that I think that was missing from the actual movie. So yeah, I feel pretty strongly in saying if you want a good Mortal Kombat movie, watch this one on HBO Max instead of the live action version. Uh, what else? Shadow and Bone, a series that's on Netflix that based off a series of books. Um, it's an interesting story. I'm not far into it. I'm maybe 4 episodes into this, but they introduced these characters that, for me, obviously, and not reading the books, I didn't know anything about them, but they're interesting, and their motivations are interesting. And honestly, I can't really describe a lot of what's going on in terms of the story, other than there's like, it's like the different world parts of the world are divided, because there's this, what looks like, if you were just to look at it, like a shadowy dark cloud that separates these different places from one another. So they almost are all run separate from each other, because in order to get to any of one of those places, you have to travel through this fog. And within this fog are these creatures, and you can't, I mean, it's almost impossible to make it to the other side without being taken out by these creatures. So it's slim to none of travel that goes through. And within this world, there are people who have these abilities. Some people can do fire, and some people can kind of control wind, and they're specialized people that they kind of help use them to try and get through to the other side. But they're also used within this war that they all seem to have against one another, because of their separation. And within this, there's this one girl who seems to be at the forefront of what's happening, and could possibly change the outcome of things based on something that happens early on. And I don't want to get into it too much other than that, but other than to say that I'm liking it so far. I'm not fully completely bought into it and given over to it, but I'm liking it enough to want to continue on with it and see where it goes. And lastly, I watched another movie on Netflix called Oxygen. And honestly, I think it's a French film, but you can use the English dub version, which it actually was pretty well done. I didn't have any issues with it. Sometimes it can be a little iffy when they do that, but it seemed to be okay. The basic premise is that this woman is awakened in a life pod, and she is awakened suddenly and doesn't remember much of anything from who she is and how she got there. But all she knows is that she's running out of air, and she has to try and get herself out of this pod. And I will say it's okay. What made me really want to watch it in the first place is because of the director is Alexander Aja, and I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff, but he also did the movie Crawl that was with the alligator that came out like last year or 2019, I think, and he also did like the Hills Have Eyes remake, and he's done some pretty good action type of horror movies. And this one, I think the issue I had with it was that it starts off in such a good premise and with such tension in the way that you would feel claustrophobic if you woke up in some sort of pod and you don't know how you got there and you can't get out of it and your oxygen is running low. But then it does these things where it does a lot of flashbacks, and it kind of pulls you out of that tension, and then it tries to put you back into it, but then it's like it's jarring in that way. And it overall just kind of felt like it was uneven in that. I ultimately thought it was okay, but I thought it could have been a lot better based on the way it started. So I don't know if I would necessarily suggest that one for anyone over some of the other stuff that I've already talked about. But I mean, it's there and it's not terrible. It's just maybe if you don't have a lot of time and there's some other things that you would want to watch, I would suggest those first before getting to something like this. It's not terrible. It's just,
Put it farther down
there's
on your
a
list.
lot of material. Yeah, there's just a lot of good, really good material out there that, and maybe in a different year, this would probably be a higher received. But with there being so much other stuff out there, this one I would put it towards the lower part of the list, like you said.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah.
With that, we are going to wrap things up and get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and, well, not really watching, kind of watching, mostly listening. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. On YouTube, you can leave your questions and comments below, or on Twitter and Facebook as well, which we are also streaming live on those two services. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at @Flicker_effect. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any videos or go live in the future. I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening.